What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is The Flash, Season 4, Episode 14, Subject 9. So this one introduces us to the ninth person on the bus for all the bus metas, Izzy Bowen, who apparently is able to control sound waves somehow, and is using it to become a very popular musician because she's able to manipulate it to where it sounds amazing. And so that's pretty much what it all is. The only problem I do have with this main storyline is that she is a country singer. And so seeing her go from like, "Hey y'all, how you doing? You gonna come help me? Oh no, I don't need you right now." She's very, very country and a little bit over the top too with her acting. Now that person has to be the thinker. And Becky was, I don't know, it was kind of working, but also kind of like, okay, this is sounding very goofy coming from her, little Becky, and she's all like, "Mr. Allen, I am going to fight you, and I am the smartest man." I'm just like, this is weird. Now we're going to have country hillbilly Izzy Bowen doing all the thinker stuff. I'm just like, this is going to get hard to watch. I can already tell. And even like from the first few moments we see her as the thinker, it's just like it doesn't really fit. That being said, there are some things about this that have gotten really good, and some things that even have gotten better because they explained a few things to me that I wasn't really certain about. But aside from all that, we're going to talk about first a couple of the side stories that really didn't work for me. First of all, obviously, is Harry Wells and Cecile for some reason starting up a friendship in this one. Why? No idea. No clue why they think this is an interesting storyline. Why they think, hey, I know, let's have Harry and Cecile become friends. That's a smart thing to do. Take up about a good third of an episode talking about this. I mean, it does still tie in because Cecile still has the powers, her brain powers. I kind of wonder though, she's saying she's having trouble sleeping. And so Harry invents this device that can block out her psychic powers. Is she not a meta? And if she is a meta, why not put the metahuman dampeners on her? The ones that Caitlyn wears to keep Killer Frost at bay, or used to wear. Is that not an option? Like, is she not a meta? Are her powers not metahuman powers? Like, what exactly is going on? How come that wouldn't work? Why did they have to invent something completely different to keep her from having... Anyway, so that's going on, and he ends up inventing this thing, and she's all, like, upset, and then they start a friendship because he wants to be friends with someone around his age because he's always hanging out with these younger people and all that, and it's kind of stupid. It does lead to him inventing the cerebral inhibitor, which Savitar mentioned to Barry at one point. So, it does lead to something. But at the same time, it feels like all of that build up just for one little story plot point. And then even after that, they're still talking about, you need to call Jesse. And he's just like, no, she's on another Earth. I can't do that. Why are you taking so much time away from the story to talk about this? And the problem I have with that is the other side story in this one, which is Ralph and Izzy kind of forming a bit of a romantic relationship. First of all, there's no need to do that. There's no need to put them together because they don't really fit together. Ralph is kind of a goof up. Yes, he's the new member on the team, so it would make sense that they'd form a connection that way. But for Izzy to just instantly look at him and she's all like, "Ooh, do you need my number or something?" Like right at the beginning of the episode, I'm like, okay, so I know where this is going now. They're forming a romantic relationship because by the end of the episode, she's going to be gone and it's going to be hurtful to Ralph. It's going to hurt him emotionally. That's exactly what they try to do. They try to build up the emotion of her being taken over by the Thinker because Ralph cared for her. That doesn't make me care for her, Because technically I'm still not really into Ralph. I'm still not enjoying him as a character. He's still just kind of, he's there. He's had a few moments here and there throughout the season so far. They've grown his character a little bit, but he's still not really that interesting. And so to give him a romantic relationship and try to have that be the foundation for whenever she gets taken over, that's why you should feel bad, it doesn't work. What would have been better is if they devoted a bit more time to her, so when she does get taken over, it's actually sad. With Becky, one of the things that made it work, this was the first time we saw somebody get taken over by the Thinker. We already saw Dominic, but he just kind of appeared and then became the new body for the Thinker. To see Becky get taken over, though, not only was she probably the most sympathetic of all the villains that we'd faced so far, but you could see that she was the one that was really forming a connection with Barry inside the prison when they were trying to escape. She was the one trying to say, the Flash really helped me, and I think we all could use some help. And, just very showed the kind side of her. With Izzy, they kind of try to do the same thing where they make her a sympathetic person and they form a connection with one of the main characters, and that's why it's sad. Well, you already saw that with Becky, and it worked for her because, that's all you really needed. You already had an episode previously with her, now they're bringing her back, making her sympathetic. Okay, that works. Izzy, we meet her in this one, she forms a connection with Ralph, and then she's taken over. That's too quick. And when you take so much time away from that because you're focusing on Harry and Cecile, that does also lessen the impact emotionally. Whenever that's going on in the side and is taking time away from more time we could be spending with Izzy and getting to know her a bit more. So I feel like they had a chance to do something more emotional with this, but instead they just kind of wasted it by rushing through it and making it, which is ironic because one of the themes in this episode for Barry is trying not to rush into situations. The writers should take their own thought process and apply it to their writing process, not rushing into something and just completely being done with it so quickly. With all that being said, though, the rest of the episode is pretty interesting. We see Barry having to deal with the fact that Captain Singh is pretty much saying, look, the new mayor, she wants you to take a leave of absence for now because a lot of people don't think you deserve to be back on the force. I like the fact that they're pointing out the flaws in the plan of Ralph showing up as DeVoe. A lot of people are saying, hey, this is a city full of metahumans. How do we know that's the real DeVoe? That's one of the things that I was saying at the end of the last episode is like, how is this going to work? Is he just going to continue to be DeVoe? How long until Marlise steps in and says something? All these little flaws in the plan that it works for now, but down the line, will it continue to work? Well, we are getting into that a bit. People are bringing up the problems that I mentioned before. They're not entirely sure it's the real DeVoe. He is going in as DeVoe consistently and answering questions, which is good to see. But I kind of wish we had seen a scene of that as well, not just talked about it. But either way, they are addressing some of the problems, and that's good. So Barry's taking a leave of absence, which means he does have a bit more time to focus on stopping the Thinker and his plan. And so, yeah, they meet Izzy. They're trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to stop him? She does manage to damage him, which we find out in this episode quite a lot about DeVoe. First of all, we find out, and I don't know if this was apparent to anyone else in the last episode, or if I'm the only one that just... I can't be the only one that thought that he was taking over the body of everyone and splitting his consciousness. Turns out he's just straight up killing everyone that he absorbs their powers, they die. And only the one that he takes over, which in this case was Becky, they're the only one that stays alive. And we see at the end of this episode when he takes over Izzy, Becky slumps over dead. So we can see that the process of taking the powers is actually killing them, which would have been nice for them to clarify last episode whenever he took over Becky. It would have been nice to see like Dominic slump over in the chair like we saw Becky in this episode. It feels like they didn't really want to clarify that until this one. But either way, we also find out that apparently his body is still not disintegrating, deteriorating. For some reason, we're still on this plot point. And it's interesting, but it's also kind of like, why? With his body, it made sense because the process that he went through to get his powers, it kind of made sense that his body might deteriorate a little bit. But with all these other people, they have healthy bodies. So I'm kind of confused as to why their bodies are deteriorating as well. Unless she does mention the dark matter inside of his body is what's deteriorating him. So I'm wondering if maybe it's the dark matter that released onto the bus is actually deteriorating all of their bodies and they just didn't know it yet. So does that mean Ralph's body might be deteriorating too? That would be interesting. Either that or it's just because he has so many powers in one body that they can't really handle it. And so this does bring up the question, well, are any of the subjects going to be able to handle it? And why does he need specifically these 12 people? Why does he need all of their powers? And he does mention at one point to, I think he mentions it to Cisco or Harrison Wells in the comms. He mentioned something along the lines of, I only needed 6, now I have 7 or something like that. So I'm wondering if maybe he had a plan to absorb a certain number of their powers. Like he had a specific process in mind when he was choosing their powers, and now he has like one extra that he didn't really need. But we do see, whenever he got the cerebral inhibitor that was supposed to block his psychic powers, he uses Kilgore's powers to hack into it, and which I'm kind of confused why they didn't find that out, because it gets put on there. And he says, as Mr. Deacon said, or well, she, because it's Becky at that point, she's like, as Mr. Deacon said, I am Kilgore. And then it falls off, hacked into. And for some reason, nobody says anything about that. Barry was right there when she said it. And he doesn't say anything about it. He has Kilgore's powers. That's how he hacked into it. No, they just, Harrison, or Harry Wells is just like, I can't believe this didn't work. I thought I accounted for everything. And even Cisco's like, maybe it did work. Maybe something messed with it. And I'm just like, Barry, step in, say something. You heard her say, I am Kilgore. You should know what's going on. But for some reason, they just let Harry believe that he's stupid, and that's pretty much the end of it. But that's one of those things where I feel like it is probably going to be important down the line, but for right now, for some reason, for whatever reason, they're not really focusing on it. They're just kind of not talking about it. And I feel like in a future episode, they're going to be like, oh, wait, Kilgore's powers, maybe we need to account for that somehow. Maybe we need to take out the electronic part of it, or I don't know. I really don't know what to expect with this cerebral inhibitor thing. I assume it's probably going to be important a little bit later down the line as well. They're going to fine tune it until it finally does work. But whatever the case, like I said, Izzy's body does get taken over. We see all the little pieces are falling into place, for the Thinker. The 3 last subjects are yet to be revealed, and I kind of still wonder if that girl that keeps popping up, if she's going to be one of the subjects or if she's just a wild card that hasn't come into play yet. But Ralph invites Barry to join him in the PI business. I don't really know what that's for. Maybe it's just something to get Barry's mind off the CCPD for now. It doesn't feel like it's a plot line that's going to take up that much time. Barry being a PI. I do like the line where Ralph's just like, I've been where you are, kicked off the force for not doing anything wrong. He's like, no, you definitely broke the law. It's just, it's one of those things where Ralph still looks at what he does as like a noble thing. And Barry, once again, has to correct him. No, you broke the law, even if it was for a good reason. So, but that's about it for this episode. A little frustrating on the side story part of it. Just didn't really feel like they were that important. Didn't really pique my interest as much as they could. But as far as the main story is concerned, it's still rolling along very smoothly. I'm excited to see what else the Thinker has up his sleeve. Who knows what's going to come next? And I'm really curious to see who the final 3 bus metas are, because one of them has to be somebody important. It feels like you can't just have 3 more random people. One of the ones that are left, it feels like something's got to be important there. Don't know who, don't know what it could possibly be, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what else could possibly happen. Hopefully you guys are too. So that's it for this one. Now on to the next episode. Now episode 15, Enter Flashtime. Very aptly named because, well, we spend most of this episode in Flashtime, which honestly was pretty cool getting to see them travel during Flashtime, and they actually treated it with a lot of care. They could have just gone into Flashtime and then just had everything work out okay in the end. And, I mean, obviously it does, because you can't kill off all your characters in this episode halfway through the season. So, obviously, there's going to be a way to work it out. But I'm sitting there thinking, there's so many ways that I'm thinking they should be able to easily do this, but I feel like they shouldn't. Especially when you open your episode with Barry, like, sweating in tears, talking to Iris in Flashtime, and it's just like, I'm not going to be able to save us this time. I mean, it really seemed like he had exhausted every option, and all the options that came to mind are stuff that they tried. And I'm just like, it's really, really awesome whenever a show can do that. Whenever they try every option but actually have good reasons for it not to work. When Cisco tried to vibe the bomb away, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so it's not going to work. Why? And he even mentions, I think I've just been breaching too much today. And then that's when Barry's like, no, wait, we're in a different time, and part of your powers involve space and time. And so now, because we're in a different timeline, flash time, which Cisco comes up with, that's why it doesn't work. I'm like, they have a good reason for it. The one that they didn't really come up with a good reason was Killer Frost. She tries to freeze the bomb. I guess it was just too much for even her to handle, I suppose. Um, I don't know. I'll be interested to see where the Killer Frost story is going, because it ends on a bit of an interesting note, which I'll get to. But yeah, so we have all of these different things Barry's trying to do. He gets Jesse and Jay Garrick both to help him out, and so they're trying everything they can. First, like I said, he tries to get Cisco to vibe it away. Doesn't work. Then they bring Jay Garrick in. He talks to Harry, who says maybe throw it into the Speed Force, which Jay says no, because that would ruin the Speed Force and it would blow it up. And if we lost it, all speedsters would be gone forever. And who knows what that would do to the balance of the universe, having an entire separate universe being blown up. Because the Speed Force is, as they've shown several times, it is connected to their world heavily. So I like the fact that they kind of said no to that, and it didn't end up being, oh, he did it and then it all worked out. That wasn't what they went for, which is what I was concerned. By the end of it, Iris is just going to be like, look, who cares if you lose your powers? The Speed Force, that it is what it is, but we need to give it a go. If it's going to save us, you might as well at least try. And then he's going to do it, and it was all going to work out in the end. That was my biggest concern, but then they didn't go that way. But then they try Killer Frost, trying to freeze it. Doesn't work. Jesse realizes if they all throw a lightning bolt at it, that should be enough energy to shut it down. That doesn't work because Jay Garrick has been in this flash time too long, and because he is a bit older and he hasn't been doing this or he's been doing this for a long time, and his powers are not as strong as Jesse and Barry's. He isn't able to stay in there as long, and so sure enough, after he tries to do a lightning bolt, it doesn't work. He then goes back into regular time. And then we see, they're trying to think of anything that can possibly work. He tells Jessie to get out, which of course she goes next to her father, and then goes back to regular time. And then we just see Barry at the board just writing, trying so many different formulas and calculations, trying to figure out how to stop this blast, but then can't figure anything out. And then he goes to Iris, and we pick back up where we left off. And surprisingly enough, Iris is the one that comes up with it, and it's not anything out of the ordinary. It's not anything that's like, oh, why didn't Barry think of that? Because he wasn't entirely sure why or how they got him out of the Speed Force. I don't know if they've explained it to him, or I don't know if we've even had that scene. But it's not something that I would have thought of right off the bat. But then Iris hears that they tried to throw lightning at it, and it didn't work because they couldn't generate enough energy. And that's when she remembers, hey, wait a minute, whenever we open up the Speed Force, the lightning storm that is created, that could be enough energy. And so sure enough, Barry goes and gets the little thing that they put in there to trick the Speed Force into thinking Barry was still in there. He grabs it, takes it out, throws it at the bomb exploding, and then all the lightning from the Speed Force goes and then neutralizes it. And that's how they end up saving the day. So yeah, it was really, really cool to see the process that it took to get to that. It was something that it felt flowing, it felt natural. It didn't really feel like completely out of the ordinary, where it's just like, oh, try all this stuff, nothing's working, and then, oh, Deus Ex Machina right at the end. No, it felt like that was something that Iris could have come up with, hearing everything that Barry said. So I like the fact that they did it that way. Very well written episode, very emotional as well. I mean, the intensity behind it. Just imagine being in that situation, knowing that you're one of 3 people in the world that can save the world right now, because the nuclear bomb has already exploded and you're just trying to find a way to stop it, even though it's already started to blow up. I mean, it's an intense setting. So I really like what they did with this episode. All in all, it was very, very intense. There are a couple storylines on the side, which I will talk about because, frankly, a couple of them, well, there are only 2 really, but both of them, it feels like it may play in later on down the line. One of them maybe not, but the first one I'll talk about is Harry and Jesse. This one definitely feels the most kind of side story-ish, more character building than anything else. But there's a lot of friction between the two of them. Because she wants him to tell her what happened to her mother possibly, or maybe face her mother's death, and he's just not really wanting to open up about it. I suppose I'm not really entirely sure what exactly the whole story there is, but he doesn't want to open up about it, and I think if we knew the story about what happened to her, we might understand that a bit better. But by the end of it, he's pretty much saying, I can't put into words how I feel about it. I can't really express it with words. And so he takes a little cerebral inhibitor thing, and he's actually turned it to where now if you put it on your head and somebody else puts the receiver on, you can read their thoughts. And so he puts it on him and lets Jessie sort of hear his thoughts about her mother. And it ends up kind of, they get to make up at the end of the episode. She does end up going back to her Earth, but it's definitely with a sense of things have started to calm down between the two of them. It's not as tense. So it's nice to see that they're starting to find a bit of a resolution there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else there. I don't think so. The other thing that gets mentioned, and because, I don't know, because people love to ruin stuff, and Twitter loves to post spoilers all the time. Yeah, I saw Iris dressed up in the speedster suit. I saw the thing. The title for the next episode is "Run, Iris, Run." Okay, so Jay Garrick pretty much says, I think I'm getting too old for this. I think I'm going to go train the next speedster on my Earth. You have another one? Yeah, she's doing a good job. She? Just like... Because why not? Why not have Iris be a speedster? Let me tell you why not. Because not everybody has to have powers. When you gave Cisco and when you gave Caitlyn powers, I didn't mind as much. Because, frankly, it kind of felt like, they probably would have them, considering how close they were to the explosion whenever it happened. It kind of made sense that maybe they did have some dormant powers that were about to come out. Iris, though, it's always just been, she's Iris. They try to do this whole kind of bullcrap storyline where it's just like, no, Iris and Barry, they're both the Flash. Because girl power. Am I right, guys? Am I right, you men that are all sexist and think women don't deserve... Okay, don't get me wrong. No problem with women in power, but you can have normal characters. Look at Joe. Joe's the perfect example. He's just a cop. You don't need to make him a cop with superpowers. You don't need to make him a cop that also is a vigilante. He's just Joe. Quentin Lance, same thing. He's just Quentin. He doesn't have to be a fighter. He doesn't have to be a vigilante. He's just Quentin Lance. He's a cop. Well, now he's working for Oliver. But that was his thing back in the day. He was just a cop. You didn't need to give him powers, even whenever he kind of started helping the team. That was it. Iris has been the same way. Obviously, she's not just there for Barry's support anymore. She used to be just the support, and that was all she was. Now she's actually started helping the team. She's been a decent team leader since she's come in. She's very good at organizing and, making decisions for the team, saying, all right, we need to do this, we need to do this. She may not be the smartest, she may not understand all the scientific stuff, but she is smart and she is a good leader. You don't need to make her a speedster to give her a purpose. Now, obviously, this is an Iris from a different Earth, so it's not like we're replacing, at least I hope not. But it is gonna, I feel like, bring up this whole possibility of, oh, what if Iris is just a dormant speedster, and maybe one day she will be a speedster, and who knows? I get this feeling like something bad is gonna come out of this, Turning Iris into a speedster, I feel like, is going to just really mess up a lot of stuff. And frankly, this season it's had its problems, it's had its weaknesses, but it's been a really good season so far. Very interesting. The villain's been interesting. I like what they've done with Barry and, dealing with all this stuff after coming out of the Speed Force. And so I feel like turning this route. First of all, this episode, even though it wasn't connected, yes, it was interesting. It was good. It was intense. It may have taken a little detour, but it was good. Now I feel like we're taking another detour down this other plot hole where Iris is now a speedster on another Earth. And I don't know why she would come to their Earth. I don't know what this is going to tie into. It just feels random. It feels like they're just randomly wanting, oh, hey, let's turn Iris into a speedster this season, guys. Oh, how are we going to fit it into our story? I will just plop it in there somewhere. All this storyline going on with the Thinker, we'll just take a break. Iris is a speedster. That's all we got to do. So I feel like this is just going to be a pointless detour that's going to waste our time, but we'll see. We'll see what they do with it. Maybe it'll be interesting. Don't have my hopes up. The other side story that is definitely very interesting going forward is we see at the end of the episode, Harry is talking to Caitlin and talking about, oh, did you and Jesse have a good talk? Yeah, more of a listening session, but it's all good. And then Caitlin is just like talking about, okay, so Killer Frost, normally I don't know what she's doing. I can't remember anything she does. I don't hear anything she says or does. And it's kind of concerning for her. Makes sense. But whenever Barry takes Killer Frost out of the regular time into Flashtime, and then she tries to freeze it, and then she tells Barry, don't let anything bad happen to Katie, Caitlin heard all of that. And it's the first time she's been able to do that with Killer Frost. I find this interesting on a few levels. One, to hear her concern for Caitlin is kind of showing that Killer Frost actually is growing as a character. She's not just a bad guy anymore. And frankly, we don't even know why it's a split personality in the first place, but it's nice to see that Killer Frost's character is growing a bit. She is not the same old hard ass, oh, I'm just a villain and I just want to kill people. She is growing to care for people, which is good. But the other thing about it is, why is this the first time that Caitlin's been able to hear everything that was going on, to remember everything that happened? Is it because Barry took her into Flashtime? Is it because she was on a different plane at that time? Maybe that's why Caitlin was able to remember it. Whatever the case, it is something interesting going forward. And on top of that, that's when the girl shows up, the random one that's popped up at Barry and Iris' wedding, that popped up to talk to Ralph and Cisco at Jitters. Now she steps in, she's, I guess, a waitress at Jitters, and she spills the drink right in the middle of Harry and Caitlin's conversation. And she's just like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm just so nervous, I've got, the jitters, and, just very awkward and kind of, like, nervous, talking about meeting people. I'm like, let me guess, she's meeting them, right? Sure enough, Caitlin's like, well, I hope your meeting goes well, and then she kind of gets very serious. She's like, it did. And the thing about it is that so far she has not seemed evil at all. She's not seemed like a villain. She seems like she might be a good guy, and that's what it feels like, at least. But then for some reason, this last little part, it's almost like they try to make her look evil. Like the music gets very intense, and she just gets all like, it did. Like very evil sounding. And that does not fit any of the character that I've seen from her so far. So unless she's been acting this entire time, like, oh my gosh, oh, it's so nice to meet you guys. Hi, how you doing? Oh, I'm so glad I could be here today. Oh, this is so fantastic. I'm so excited to actually be here. And then, do this. Oh, I'm just so nervous, getting to meet new people, and it's always making me jittery, and the caffeine and stuff. Oh, I hope your meeting goes well. Oh, it did. It's just like out of nowhere, and that's the one thing out of this. I'm just like, okay, has she just been acting this whole time like she's all nervous and hyper and stuff, and then in fact she's a bad guy? Or are they just doing this to make us think, oh, what if she's actually a bad guy, guys? Oh, I don't know, maybe she might be. Ooh, aren't you scared for him now? What if this girl has actually been working for DeVoe the whole... I don't feel like that. Just because you showed me this one scene where she acted a little bit evil doesn't make me think, oh, she's evil now. So I don't know what that was. Maybe it'll be explained hopefully pretty soon. I want to find out what this girl's deal is. I'm still banking on Barry and Iris' future daughter coming to the past somehow. We'll see. Maybe she's a speedster. Nah, we couldn't have another speedster, I don't think. But either way, whatever the case, I am looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next. Obviously, not looking forward too much to next episode. Run, Iris, run. Come on. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 2 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Flash reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.